Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Feiran Hao. I am the VP of Product Strategy at UiPath, and I work for our Chief Product Officer, Graham Sheldon. Today, I'm here to tell you a little bit about our move into agentic automation, agentic orchestration, and I want to share a little bit about where we were, where we're going, and how we're helping our customers. The first thing I want to start with is Act 1. Act 1 was our first 10 years as a company. And in these first 10 years, we focused on a lot of what you remember us for, UI automation. We built the most powerful computer vision models to support the ability for our customers to do UI automation. And as we evolved in Act 1, we started evolving to do more than just UI automation and task automation, but we started doing process automation, workflow automation, including documents, and we put humans in the loop. I like to use this timeline to give you an idea of how that journey actually happened. Many people see us and think UiPath has started in 2018. Well, 2018 was actually about 13 years after we actually officially started as a company. UiPath started in 2005 in the beginning for one purpose and one purpose only. That was to build the best UI automation, the best RPA. We have now evolved a lot since then, but during the early stages of UiPath, we excelled at clicking and typing on the screen just like a human would. As customers got used to UI automation, they came and asked us to help them automate more and more of the processes that they were performing. They asked us to bring in API automation. They asked us to bring in low-code applications in order to bring UI, UXs to our end customers. As we started developing the capabilities around task automation in UI, API, and low-code apps, the problem statement changed for our customers. Our customers came and started asking us for end-to-end orchestration, for governance, in order to actually manage these automations at scale. At that stage, I would say that UiPath was very strong at doing automation of activities. As we grew, we started building out more capabilities to help you understand automation opportunity, as well as invested in testing. But as we broke into our first stages of AI, with intelligent document processing, with communication mining, we started being able to do more than just tasks, but starting to do actual workflows. Workflows that involved a bit more than just clicking, typing, or an API call. However, in 2023 or 2022 area, when generative AI first came on board, with the advent of ChatGPT, the whole world kind of changed. And people started wondering, what could we do with LLMs? What could we do with generative AI? And UiPath's initial belief was that we can help you harness what we were great at. UI automation, API automation, action, as we call it, as an outcome of Gen AI. My example with this is, you can always ask ChatGPT how to do something, but it was very difficult at the time to ask ChatGPT to actually do something for you. In order for ChatGPT to actually do something for you, it still needed UI automation, API automation, other capabilities to actually achieve that value. As the world started progressing and the capabilities around LLMs improved, that's when we realized that we really needed to invest into an Act 2. An Act 2 of an era of agentic automation. And what Act 2 allows us to do is actually bring agents into automations so that we can get to an even higher level of automation. When I say Act 1 evolved into Act 2, I'm not saying that we're leaving Act 1 behind, that Act 2 is all that's necessary in the future. It's actually an and statement. We need both Act 1 and Act 2. And the reason for that is we still need, in order to do end-to-end process automation, you still need the ability to do task automation. For agents, they're great at some things, but you still need robots for other things, and I'll explain that momentarily. A lot of new modern technologies are focusing on API automation, but at the end of the day, if your systems require UI automation, you will still need a little bit of UI automation in order to do that fully end-to-end automated workflow. And then finally, for professional coders who are interested in developing agents, we're going to support you. However, at the same time, we recognize that there's still going to be a large number of business developers out there, low-code developers out there, citizen developers out there that will require the benefits of a low-code development platform. It is the combination of Act 1 and Act 2 that brings us to our agentic automation platform of today. And there's two things I'd like to call out. The first thing is, as you notice, our obsession has been to increase the scope of what we can automate for our customers to higher and higher levels, starting from simple activity automation, such as a click or a type or an API call, to a workflow automation that includes things such as document processing. Finally, with the announcements that we're going to make today, full end-to-end process automation that involves more than just people and robots, but involve agents, people, and robots. It is our belief that agents think, robots do, and people will lead. And that's the future of agentic automation. The second thing that I want to call out is the foundation of our platform continues to focus on things such as security and governance, trust, context and models, because we believe that customers who really want to deploy AI at scale in production for enterprises need these capabilities. We're seeing a lot of technology out there that is really cool and really good for proof of concept, but is very difficult to actually bring into production. Our emphasis, first and foremost, is how do we bring this into production? So let's go a little bit deeper. But it was that platform that allowed us to become the #1 enterprise automation platform that we have today, right? With 10,000 plus customers, 3 million plus community members, and 7,000 plus business partners. Before we go a little bit deeper, I want to take a second and reiterate what our product strategy is at UiPath. You'll hear me talk a lot about enterprise agents, agentic orchestration. These are the new capabilities that we're launching today that are bringing us into Act 2. But we will not forget what made us great. What made us great these last 10 years is our best-in-class automation capabilities using RPA, API, IDP, tests, process mining, etc. We will continue to invest in Act 1 because it is essential in order to make agentic automation work. What do I mean by making it essential for agentic automation? Many people ask the question, robots versus agents. Why do I want robots when I can have agents? The reality is robots are rules-based, while agents are goals-based. And when I say rules-based, what I mean is that a robot will follow the same process every single time, all the times. If you're familiar with UiPath's platform, you would recognize that this is Studio on this side, and on this side, you'll see an automation run. Think about a process such as submitting information into a system on behalf of a customer, on behalf of a patient. If you're the government, you want these sort of automations to run the same way every single time, no exceptions, no room for error. You don't want AI to come and hallucinate and make up something. You don't want AI to come and click a different button when you actually meant to click submit. You don't want AI to guess the next step. You want this to always be the same way. This is why robots continue to be important in making agentic automation work. Agents on the other hand, are goals-based. And as you heard earlier, agents use something called dynamic planning in order to achieve an outcome. Now, in order to achieve this outcome, thinking about ChatGPT as an example, it needs a few things. The first thing agents need is tools. Agents need to still be able to do something in order to actually operate. It cannot just think. It needs to be able to do web search. It needs to be able to data enter into a system. It needs to be able to download a report. It needs to be able to extract information. It still needs tools. Agents also need context. Context is context specific to your automation and your process. You do not want a generic agent all the time. You want an agent to be able to bring in the right information at the right time. And then finally, to make agents really work in the near term, you need escalation. Whenever an agent doesn't know what to do next, you need it to escalate and ask a human. You cannot have the agent just guess, no matter what the process is. And this is why we believe the future is not robots or agents, it's robots and agents. And as we get into robots and agents, it becomes quite complicated for us to think about how do we help customers orchestrate robots, agents, and humans. To demonstrate this, I'd like to go a little bit deeper into a use case. The use case we've chosen today is loan origination. The reason why I like this use case is because universally, people can understand the types of steps that go into getting a loan. The first step is to take an application in and validate that it's complete. The second step usually is putting the application into a system and doing verification checks. Third step, and this is where the real value is the eligibility analysis and determination. That is where someone doing this process actually provides human value. And then the final step, system updates, application communication. I take this example because if you think about a world where we didn't have any automation at all, a loan eligibility officer's desktop will look something like this. They will have all of these different documents open, trying to understand and trying to determine whether or not I should grant this loan. But with automation, we can do a lot of this process. Let's take this process and break it further down into its subcomponents. Underneath this process is a lot of different sub-processes, or as we would call them, workflows. Things that many of which you could have automated today. Look at this first step, reading application documents. This process uses automation and document processing. Updating systems, adding customers to application details, these are all very easy to do in automations today. Even some of the human-in-the-loop processes, we can absolutely do. But at this level, within this process, there are these 5 gaps that are still human. Why are these 5 steps still human? If we look at this one, validating against state requirements. Every single state, every single location, every single region, every single province might have different requirements. It is very, very difficult for any sort of RPA developer using traditional automation technology to actually be able to build a rules engine around this and have it maintainable. Whereas for more modern agentic AI capabilities, you can feed an agent the objective of validating the requirements and feeding it tools to go research and understand the local eligibility requirement of wherever the applicant's from. Let's take another look at this, analyzing eligibility. Why is analyzing eligibility so hard? It's because there's no single way to do this. If there was one single way to analyze eligibility, there will be no need for humans at all and a loan application. But to make this determination, you have to take in a bunch of different information in order to even get a recommendation on what to do. And an agent can do that. Let's take a look at this one, verifying customer and property. There's no single way to do this process. You can look in some systems, you can Google search, you can look for news articles. There's no way for me to actually code all the different ways that I could approach verifying this customer and property. All of these examples, or at least 4 of these examples, are great examples for where agents can come into play. And when I talk about agents here, I'm not talking about necessarily your traditional chat agent. When many people think about agents, they think about chat experiences like ChatGPT. When I'm talking about agents here, I'm actually suggesting back-end, back-office, behind-the-scenes agents that are taking in information and working autonomously behind the scenes to gather information for you. But you notice that we left one item here still human. And that is because we believe that you absolutely need a human to do the final decision on a process such as this. You, in many of our business processes, never want to rely fully on AI and on automation because there's some human elements to consider when making decisions such as this. We can turn these 4 into agents. The challenge still remains that you now have 15 or 14 individual automated workflows that are distinctly siloed. And when we realize this, and we realize that there's automations, humans, and agents, we realized that we needed to build something new. So we built UiPath Maestro, our agentic orchestration capability that allows us to orchestrate this process end-to-end in a BPM-like way. What's unique about UiPath when we actually go and orchestrate this, I'll talk about in a minute, but it's that evolution that drove us to build Act 2 as it is today. Act 2 being our official launch of Agents and Maestro. Before I talk about Maestro a little bit, and there'll be a session later after the break that will cover more of Maestro, I want to talk a little bit about agents. These 4 agents that I mentioned earlier. The first agent, this one, that's the eligibility agent that I mentioned earlier. This is a UiPath agent, meaning that it's a UiPath low-code agent. We've built the ability in our platform to design and implement low-code agents. And you'll see some of that detail later on. But we've also have the ability to bring in external agents. This final agent, that's a Copilot agent. This agent, Crew AI. This agent, LangChain. What I'm emphasizing here is that our agentic orchestration platform, our Maestro, is built to be agnostic. UiPath is agnostic. We don't care if you want to bring in an external agent. What we care about is helping customers automate the end-to-end workflow. When we look at our open agentic ecosystem, as I mentioned earlier, there's 2 types of agents here. The UiPath agent, and those of you that have played with Copilot know that Copilot agents are both low-code agents. These are agents that might not necessarily require a lot of coding, could be done by business users with the help of some of our AI development tools that we'll show later on after the break. But Crew and LangChain are distinctly professionally coded agent capabilities. These are Python-based open source frameworks that require professional coders. We also know that professional coders will require more than this. They will require the ability to use MCP, and we will also support other protocols as they come out, such as agent-to-agent protocol, LangGraph agent protocol. our emphasis here, once again, is giving our professional developers, the professional developers out there that are building these agents, the opportunity to put their agents onto UiPath, orchestrated by UiPath. This has benefits because when you orchestrate your own agent on UiPath, we bring you the two things we do very well: governance and security. We will help you go and manage this process. We will help you ensure that your LLM calls are secure using our trust layer, and we'll help you actually orchestrate this as part of a larger end-to-end workflow that you don't have to custom build yourself. When building a low-code agent with UiPath, what you'll see later on today is in our agent builder, we have the ability for you to build instructions, which are the prompt, as well as everything I mentioned earlier, the tools, the context, the escalations. These are the 4 foundational components of every single agent out there. And in UiPath, low-code agents, we have the ability to do this as well. Underneath all of this continues to be our emphasis on the AI trust layer with LLM ops, the ability to bring and intercept LLM calls so that you can ensure that your data stays safe. Let's take a second and talk about agentic orchestration. Earlier, I showed you agentic orchestration. Agentic orchestration is much more than just modeling. When many people think about BPM, they think that it's just the ability to model, to draw this use case. Not only can we model, we can implement, operate, monitor, and optimize. What does that actually mean? Well, from a modeling perspective, what you see here is the actual workflow built in UiPath Maestro. You'll see the structure is very similar to what you saw in the simplified view. This is doable in UiPath today, not just as drawing. Every one of these boxes can be implemented as its own individual UiPath automation, whether it's UI automation, API automation, document processing, sending some code, human-in-the-loop escalation, agents here. Every single one of these boxes is real. None of it is just a drawing. When we implement a process like this, you'll be able to watch a process run across this workflow. You'll see every single step as it's being run, all logged for you. And as we watch this kind of diagram illustrate this concept, you'll see that it stops here. That one final human experience I mentioned earlier, where the loan officer has to make an eligibility determination. And what we're going to bring for that loan officer, imagine that loan officer, instead of having that screen full of documents trying to make that decision, have this nice little loan app where they have every major document here shown, extracted, allowing the loan officer to kind of review that. They have information that the agent has gathered around the property, around its employment history, liquid assets, to provide an agent recommendation. The agent has done all the heavy lifting. All the human now has to do is really look at this holistic situation and either approve or reject. This is what it means for us to be able to actually implement an orchestrated end-to-end process and make it work. I also want to take a minute and talk about another agent that we're launching in this space called the healing agent. You guys probably heard of this before. We've been talking about it for some time. I want to announce that it's finally GA. We have healing agent now. One of the biggest problems in traditional UI automation is that sometimes it would break. The 2 most common reasons why a UI automation might break is because of a selector issue, where it's not finding the box or the button to click. Or the second problem is an unexpected pop-up. Imagine all those pop-ups you're getting right now around accepting cookies before you can continue. With Healing Agent, what we've developed is the ability for the agent at runtime to automatically intercept those pop-ups and continue, and to fix broken selectors. We've brought this experience not just to runtime, but to design time as well, meaning that developers that are developing can get recommendations from Healing Agent as they're testing on how to strengthen and fix their automations. These are all the capabilities we're bringing around implementation. When you actually go and run a UiPath Maestro workflow, we actually manage each instance separately. What that means is we allow business owners and business team owners, process owners, to be able to analyze their processes and analyze their incidents. You'll be able to see each individual execution of a process, where it is in that process, how many have succeeded, how many have failed, where did it fail, why did it fail, what sort of things can you glean from the failures, where can you fix these automations. And as will be shown later on in this after the break, we have a lot of capabilities in this instance management. Imagine being able to pause a workflow. Imagine being able to retry a workflow from exactly the step that it failed. Imagine being able to migrate and update that workflow in the middle of its running to fix a bug. And imagine being able to continue a workflow from anywhere else in the process to avoid scenarios or issues that you want to avoid. These are all capabilities that we're bringing around the operate side. And then, of course, there's monitoring. Monitoring allows us to actually monitor these executions at a whole different level. We even provide a heat map that allows you to see precisely where there are delays in the automation. You can see your incident count over time, find the top areas where the process failed. You can even find the top areas where the process is taking the longest. You'll see a lot more of this after the break as well. And then finally, our fifth capability on Maestro is optimize. If you're familiar with UiPath's process mining capabilities, you'll know that process mining takes systems logs in order to glean insights about your processes. The most difficult part of process mining has always been making sure that the logs make sense together. When you run a process through agentic orchestration, we will capture those logs for you. And you can put those logs directly into process mining and optimize and look for opportunities to further improve your workflow. With agentic orchestration and Maestro, we believe that we're bringing our customers a much stronger way to orchestrate and operate end-to-end processes that involve not only UiPath capabilities, but all the capabilities out there in our ecosystem. I want to take a second now and talk about the rest of the platform. When you saw the platform strategy slide earlier, you saw that we were focused on enterprise agents and agentic orchestration. Now you have an understanding of what that means. But the lower left box of improving our core platform, staying true to what made us great, making our core automation platform even better, we will continue innovating, and here's 6 examples of what we're doing. First one is data fabric. We know that when operating a complex end-to-end process, managing your data ontology, as it's called, is very difficult. Because the data that sits in your systems sit in various different systems, and it's hard to understand at a cohesive level for a process such as loan processing. At that level, we have built data fabric that allows you to create your own data models for your processes, to structure your processes. API workflows. If you've been using UiPath for a while, you know that we can run APIs today, but the API experience might be a little bit clunky. What our new Chief Technology Officer, Raghu, has done is he's asked us to rebuild from the ground up a more modern way to run API workflows. That's what's happened, and it will be in public preview starting around June, which is this month. IXP generative extraction. Traditionally, if you've used UiPath for document processing or communication mining, you'll know that we excelled at semi-structured and structured documents. Semi-structured and structured documents being like receipts, tax forms, invoices, document types that look similar or at least close enough most of the time. What we've done with IXP generative extraction, and you'll see a little bit of this after the break as well, is we've unlocked the ability to do complex unstructured data processing. Think about documents such as contracts, medical records, stuff that doesn't have a structure at all and is completely unstructured. How can we actually extract meaningful intelligence out of that and perform automations? Let's look at this bottom left. Even though we've been successful so long as a company that's primarily automated on Windows, there's still a lot of demand out there for Mac automation. Some demand coming from the world's provider of Mac OS. What we've done is we've built the ability to also do UI automation on Mac OS. This is not just using simple, clicking and typing heuristics. It's the same driver technology we had behind the scenes of our Windows UI automation. We have working implementations now of UI automation on Macs using systems such as even SAP Thick Client. Agentic testing. I like to talk about testing because there's an interesting story behind it. Our founder CEO, Daniel, never wanted to enter the test market. He always thought that it was the least interesting, the slowest growing technology out there. However, it was because customers who are using UiPath, UI and API automation came to Daniel and said, hey, we love your technology. We want to use it for testing. Can you please build a testing platform for us? He finally said yes about 5 years ago, and our test platform is now one of our fastest growing product categories. We took that momentum and we harnessed it into agentic testing. It's more than just application testing. Agentic testing brings LLM capabilities to help you find test cases, discover test cases, automatically turn natural language into code for these test cases, to get insights out of test runs, to understand why your test was failing. And alongside this, we're launching a brand new Test Cloud. Test Cloud will be different than Automation Cloud in the sense that Test Cloud is built for application testing first and foremost. If you've been using testing for a while, you'll know that testing right now is almost hidden behind Automation Cloud, but we're changing that paradigm. Finally, agentic UI automation. And there will be some discussion about this after the break as well. If you've heard anything right now on the market about OpenAI Operator or cloud computer use, you'll know that these technologies are being marketed by LLM companies as the replacement for RPA. They will say that RPA is dead because we can now use natural language and do UI automation. The challenge with that is that UI automation through natural language is not reliable. It does not click the same buttons every single time. It does not type information into the same order every single time. It's still very fragile. And real attempts at bringing that technology into an enterprise setting have not been that successful. What we're going to do, and what we're doing now, as we are in private preview now, is we're combining the best of our UI automation capabilities, the selector technology we had before, with LLMs to provide a reliable way to do dynamic UI automation. So at least that the activity of the UI automation is reliable. And what we believe, even now, we still believe that customers won't feel fully comfortable using this in production for any sort of thing that will be doing a meaningful process. This type of technology might be super useful for things such as ad hoc UI automation on your local desktop, but you always want humans to go and validate. We will continue investing in other areas such as this, but we're also investing in vertical solutions. What do I mean by that? If you know UiPath for a long time, you'll know that our primary focus up until this point has been building an automation platform that anyone can go and automate what they'd like. We also know that customer problems are typically more detailed than that. Customers are asking to solve a problem. They're not asking for an automation platform. They're trying to solve a use case. And what we've discovered is we want to both be the automation platform where you can build your own automations, but also invest into areas where we can be a full solution for you. A full solution in the sense that application testing is a full solution. Peak is our first of these verticalized agents. And what Peak is, it's an AI for manufacturing and retail to do product pricing and inventory management. Peak has its own AI models in order to go give you recommendations around how to price a quote if you're in manufacturing, how to set your list prices in order to optimize and keep your price competitive. If you're in retail, how to do your markdown and promotion strategy so you know that you're actually maximizing your gain while still selling the most product. On inventory management, dynamic inventory management, how can you make sure that you're keeping the least amount of inventory possible while still operating well? Production planning, service level predictor, all that to say, between these 6 capabilities, bringing in Peak allows us to integrate this technology directly into your agentic workflows. And imagine a world where, in manufacturing, UiPath Maestro is orchestrating the end-to-end process, and one of those boxes is Peak. And it allows you to bring all the information in and take that, do quote pricing, do list price, do dynamic inventory management. All the stuff that we're creating is also not just for our customers. It's also for us. And over the last year and a half, we migrated our ERP off of our old system onto SAP S/4HANA. We know that this type of migration is notoriously difficult, very, very complicated. And we wanted to be customer zero of actually doing this in a full end-to-end way. Over the course of this migration, we built around 1,000 plus user stories that we wanted to accomplish. We had 2,000 plus test cases. We had 400 plus automations running in order to do those test cases. And what's important is we managed to keep a 93% clean core. What does 93% clean core mean? It means that only 7% of our ERP is custom. Everything else is out-of-the-box SAP functionality. The reason why that's so important, and the reason why we invested all this effort and probably extended our release in order to achieve that, is so that in the future, if SAP makes advancements, it's easier for us to migrate and upgrade. There's less custom code for us to handle. This is just one example of the way we're using agentic automation internally, and one example of an automation that we believe we can help take to market with partners and with customers. Finally, I want to spend a little bit of time and talk about the enthusiasm we're getting around our new capabilities. Here's just 6 customer quotes across various industries, various verticals, various types of departments. I want to emphasize 2 things. The first thing is, if you take a look at Johnson Controls, at Eliza, at Cognizant, all 3 of them are emphasizing agentic orchestration or UiPath Maestro. All three of them had the same issues. They were doing pockets of automation, and they were having difficulty orchestrating the end-to-end thing. And that is proving to be an extremely valuable capability that we're bringing out, especially in this world of agentic automation. I'd like to share a story with another customer of ours in this space, in insurance. They're a very mature customer. They have a lot of professional developers. They have professional developers out there using LangChain and Python and AWS, successfully POCing an agentic use case. And they came and asked us, UiPath, why should we work with you? And we asked them one simple question. We said, this is great. You can use LangChain and Python and all of that. How are you going to scale and govern this? And the customer realized they didn't have an answer. They didn't really know at the time how they were going to take the Python code and deploy it across their whole enterprise in a safe, reliable way where they had full traceability. And we showed them UiPath Maestro, and they said, now we understand. And that is how we closed one of our biggest deals to date. The other types of customers are interested in agentic use cases, where they can deploy not chat-based agents, but back-office, true enterprise autonomous agents. And these agents, what they're looking for in these agents is not for the agents to actually do all the work. They're looking for these agents to assist and gather information, do research, pull information back so that the humans can ultimately make a decision. I'll give you one of my favorite examples right now, where we competed against a competitor in the agent space. The customer's problem statement was, I'd like for my sales team, and it was a retail food and beverage company, I'd like for my sales team to understand what is selling where, what brands are doing better, what types of products are doing better. And the problem with reports is the reports get too overwhelming. It doesn't answer that seller's specific question at that specific time. They'd have to dig through all the reports to try to understand this. So together with them, we built an agentic solution that not only turned their natural language question into a query, executed that query against their databases, extracted this information, presented it back to the customer. And when the customer wanted to do follow-up action as a result of that query, we were able to automatically automate those as well. These are the examples of what our customers are coming to us when it comes to agentic orchestration and agents. And finally, what I'd like to leave you all today with is a summary of why UiPath for all of this. Why do we deserve to have a spot at the table? First and foremost, we continue to have the best-in-class automations and tools. As I mentioned earlier, tools are super vital in order to making agents run. Not just for its reliability, but actually giving agents the arms and legs to do something. All these things that you hear around agent-to-agent protocol, MCP, they're all an effort to bring tools to agents. And to this day, we still have the best-in-class automations and tools. Second, end-to-end agentic orchestration. This is our ability to actually orchestrate end-to-end processes. We're no longer just an RPA company. We can do all of this and orchestrate not just tasks, workflows, but end-to-end processes. And because we are vendor agnostic, companies are finding us to be the solution for the overall orchestration of all their automation workflows. At the end of the day, UiPath's business, first and foremost, is automation. We don't have an ERP. We're not trying to sell you our ERP. We don't have a CRM. We're not trying to sell you our CRM. We don't have a whole bunch of cloud services that we're trying to sell you. We have one product around agentic automation, and that's all we care about. That's why we can stay vendor agnostic, because we just want to be your automation platform. And then finally, enterprise-grade accuracy, reliability, trust, and governance. When our CTO, Raghu, joined, the first thing he focused on was making this stuff work. When he says work, he doesn't mean proof of concept. He means truly work. He focused solely on increasing the reliability of agentic technology. And you'll see later this afternoon, after some break, some of what he's done to improve reliability around building these agents. But in order to make these work, he set a goal for us, which was actually bring customers to production. It was not enough for us to just bring customers to POC. So even though Agentic Automation only launched about, all of these capabilities only launched about a month and a half ago, we now have single digits customers in production. It's been less than a month since, well, less than a full month since we fully launched. These are the capabilities, these are what we're focused on and why we deserve to have a play at the table. With that being said, I want to thank you all for your time. This is my first time in Korea. It's been amazing. I landed yesterday. I'm a little tired, but I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.